Welcome back. This is Jason Linett. I'm a board-certified hypnotist. I'm an instructor. I'm the director here at Virginia Hypnosis. And this video here today is the second in the series of the NGH Hypnotism Success Series. I'm shooting this video live here today. We've got my winter 2014 NGH Hypnosis certification class going on right now. Had an amazing class so far. We're about halfway through, jumping into some really cool stuff in the next couple of days. And I opened this up to the group to ask, should I shoot this video here or do it with all of you? And the decision was unanimous, so we're kicking off this morning with this content. Just to introduce myself a little bit further. I'm Jason Linett. Again, I'm a board-certified hypnotist. I'm an instructor. We're shooting this here in my office. We've got all the papers up for the class that's going on right now. And I'm on faculty with the National Guild of Hypnotists, presenting workshops. I've got 3 coming up in the upcoming convention. To learn more about the NGH convention, if you've never been before, you got to go. ngh.net. We'll put that right here. Read the information. It's up in Massachusetts every year. It's a fabulous event. So we present classes here pretty frequently, certification courses and so forth. So the goal, though, is educating hypnotists in this series right now. We've got a room here of people who now know how to hypnotize, and most of you watching this video, whether at home or you're in your offices or watching it later on elsewhere, you've already got perhaps a business in place, or maybe there might be a few things holding you back from really jumping in and making this business work. In the presentation today, I want to share with you an interesting business strategy that really has founded the core behind everything that I do. So my goal, though, is, of course, we've got a room full of brand new hypnotists, but my goal is also for all of you at home watching who are already well seasoned in this profession to find value in this information as well. So the presentation today is titled Lead Generation, Fill the Pipeline. And let me define that metaphor before we really jump into things. I want you to imagine a pipe like you'd have in your home, plumbing, water. And if you turn the faucet on just a little bit, there's just a little bit of water going through it, right? Yeah. And if we open it up all the way, then there's a gush, there's a stream, that flood is coming in. So what if we could build a hypnosis business where rather than just a trickle here, a trickle there, rather than just a couple of people calling us every now and then, what if there was a method to create this real pipeline, this flow of ongoing incoming clients? That's what I'm going to share with you today. So I've got some specific goals here in terms of what I'm going to be presenting. First of all, for the new hypnotist, the goal is to excite your business efforts with multiple possibilities, to start with a systematic plan for success, and to encourage efficiency in the startup phases. I'll phrase it this way. If I was using these tactics when I first got started, I would be in a much better place today. My business really didn't take off at the level at which it is now until I started to really understand the concepts behind lead generation marketing. So if I had this when I got started, things would be much easier. If we were starting with the goal of building systems, building efficiency in what we do, we'd all be working at much better levels. So for the already working hypnotist, perhaps most of you watching this video at home, the goal is to refocus your efforts to bring in more clients, always a good thing, to convert more business from past marketing streams, to demonstrate the value of list building, and to simplify your sales process to work for you. There's a number of themes you're going to hear me really expand upon in this video. Without a list, you really don't have much of a business. And there's some stories that I'll be sharing as we begin to roll forward that really illustrate the real benefit behind having a list. Simply put, if I have a marketing message and I want to send it out to everybody who's already raised their hand and said, I'm interested, I'm going to experience a much better conversion rate. Just to break down some of the business lingo I may be using in this video, converting them from a person who's just called me and said I'm interested to a living, breathing, paying client here in my office or in any shape of our business. That's another fact too. We've got a Pilates studio owner here. We have yoga instructors. We have Reiki practitioner. I want to point out this little note here that this content here is not just hypnosis specific. I'm really of the belief that if we use these tactics in every model of business, perhaps our economy would be in a much better place. It's on the way up. I want to recap last month's video. If you haven't seen it yet, go back, check it. Just look at the videos also from Hypnotism Success series here on YouTube. Last month's video, was all about rethinking hypnosis, refocusing our efforts. The big mission statement I wanted to share from that video is that our profession is already at a much further along place than perhaps most of us are willing to accept. Our profession is already always in the news. It's in newspapers. It's on TV. We're doing a lot better than a lot of us sometimes would seem to think. So let's begin to update our thinking to expand upon that, but also begin to use some tactics to convert more business. I also talked about the concept of competition. Competition is a much better internalized conversation. Rather than Jeanette here has opened up an office a couple of miles down the road from me, and she's offering services at this cost, and that means I now have to cut my fee, I need to shortcut what I do. No, I should be focusing on what I'm doing and how can I better serve my clients. On that theme, I introduced the message that saturation is strength. The more of us that are working, then the more of us that are working. Also, I emphasized an emphasis on client-centered hypnosis, fitting the process to the client rather than the client to the process. When we have that style of work, I firmly believe that we're all going to become much more successful as hypnotists. Also, I talked about the theme of identifying with your client as the result. So rather than handling the problem, the client is coming in and bringing all these problems and letting that, transference. Rather than let that transference become an issue, we should identify with our clients as the result, bring them along for the ride. I focused on profitability being a very positive thing. If you have personal issues with money, I hope that theme landed in really strongly. When we're successful, our clients are going to become much more successful. I introduced that theme straight out of Michael Gerber's book, The E-Myth Revisited. We're working on our business here, not just in our business. Modeling your own excellence, finding those things that work really well for you. And I share a lot of the content that I'm sharing with you today, which first of all, I'm not sharing anything that I haven't done myself personally. I'm going to be peppering in a number of stories, a number of specific examples of times in which I've used these strategies exactly as I'm about to share with you here. And again, the theme is leading with education. By educating our clients, by guiding them through an effective sales process, we're going to have a much easier life in terms of running the structure of our business. In the last video, I introduced a theme that I first learned from the stage hypnotist Jeffrey Ronning. He, on a previous video that I watched of his, talked about types of buyers, sophisticated clients and unsophisticated clients. And before we go further, the theme is, through relationship building, we're going to convert unsophisticated buyers into sophisticated buyers. So let's look at the structure of what we mean by this. Again, sophisticated, unsophisticated. These terms have nothing to do with the socioeconomic class of that client there in front of us. And even the words have nothing to do with their educational level, whether they just have a high school diploma, whether they don't even have that, whether they have a PhD in something. It's got nothing to do with that. The whole concept of sophisticated to unsophisticated, where that comes into play is, where are they in terms of our sales process? Where are they in terms of a buying decision purchasing this service? So again, chances are most people you'd ever encounter in a hypnosis business in your office have never done this stuff before. Therefore, they're unsophisticated. In the environment of the stage hypnotist, a booking agent, that's a very sophisticated buyer. That's a person who works for a company that then hears the client say, we want a stage hypnotist. And they then go to their database, they call up several stage hypnotists, and it's a game of which one's available, what's the right fee structure, and they've basically turned it into a bit of a commodity. How many chairs do you need? What do you need in advance of the show? Do you bring your own sound system? Do you want to use the hotels? It's a very sophisticated buyer. They know what questions to be asking. And I'd simply share that for the most part, our incoming hypnotherapy, consulting hypnotism clients don't know the questions to be asking. So in this model of lead generation, you're going to see me begin to break down how we educate that client, how to get the foot in the door and really begin to build that process. So with that in mind, I want to share an interesting theme. And it's all about, why don't people buy? Well, there's a number of potential options here. First of all, they might not yet be ready to make that buying decision. Maybe they forgot who you were and called another hypnotist. Maybe, perhaps, they just ended up choosing another route. But the one thing I really want to stress on this video here today is perhaps, and perhaps, you did not build a relationship. Perhaps not. And let me really break down what I mean by building a relationship. My wife and I have been together for going on, this will be our 6th wedding anniversary coming up this coming November, 2014. Little fun fact, we actually got married exactly 5 years to the day after our first date. I never have any excuse for not remembering a day because it's the same thing every single year. In fact, it's kind of fun because you can ask us, how long have you been together? And maybe one of us will say 10 years, the other says 5 years. Well, together 10 years, married for 5. So imagine for a moment, though, it's about maybe 10 and a half, 11 years or so ago. And we're both on the same college campus. And imagine that I'm over there and I see her and I think, oh, maybe she and I should talk. And if I walked up to her right away, stared her in the eyes and said, you and I are going to have 2 children. We're going to have 2 children. We're going to live in Virginia together. We're going to be very happy. How well do you think that would have? Yeah, not well at all. As opposed to letting the relationship play out the way that it naturally did. We first were friends. We knew each other before we officially started dating. Then from there, I got up the courage to ask her out. Relationship began to grow. I moved out of the area when I graduated college. We still remained in contact. She then moved up to the area where I was living at the time. This was Baltimore, Maryland. We moved in together. I proposed. We got married. Honeymoon. Year or so later, we got a dog. As the saying goes, once you have the dog, there's the gateway dog. Then we had our first child, Claire. And then almost 2 years to the same month later, we had our son, Max. So look at the way that all played out naturally. It's a natural flow of a relationship. And I want to bring that same theme to your business. Before we go further, there's an interesting side note here. Maybe you can think of a performing artist, a musician, maybe a comedian that you've seen live before. Growing up, I was in a family where my mom just loved the heck out of Willie Nelson. And, you know, the Willie Nelson music was always being played. If you're in her car, you're listening to Willie Nelson. So growing up, I appreciated the music. He's an amazing musician. And just a couple of years ago, all of a sudden, he's coming into town. It was Mother's Day, so I bought tickets for my mom and I to go see Willie Nelson on Mother's Day. And this interesting thing occurred to me in that moment. When he walked out on stage, everybody in that audience already knew him. And there's this interesting thing where he walks out on stage, and this is going to be true whether it's the stand-up comedian, whether it's the band, whether there's an actor, a sports star that you follow, and all of a sudden, there you are in the room with that person. There's a level of rapport that you've already created. Actually, in this class, there's a few people that have commented. They've watched the videos on my website. We've talked on the phone a couple of times. And Chris came in, and his line was funny. He goes, I walked in, and I already knew you. But he goes, then there was an awkward moment where I realized that you didn't yet know me. So how do we begin to build that kind of natural bond, that natural rapport with our clients? How do we let them enter into a process where then, when they're ready, that's when they make that buying decision? Sounds good, doesn't it? Yeah. So there's a couple of different other styles of marketing that, for the sake of completeness, for the sake of thoroughness, I want to address here. And the first one we'll kind of demonstrate. Think about these for a moment and let yourself just imagine these. The first style of marketing would be image marketing, or what's often now called branding. So it's an interesting experiment just to think for a moment, who said and whose catchphrase are these terms? I'm loving it. Well, that's McDonald's. Just do it. We all now know that's Nike. And that was easy. Well, that's a bit of a newer one. That's Staples, the office supply store. And for some reason, if you take a little lowercase I and you stick it in front of any word, now it's an Apple product. So these are themes of creating an image, creating a brand, creating a recognizable theme within your business. And I'd share it's a wonderful strategy. It's a wonderful technique. However, there's a couple of challenges that come into play with it. First of all, it can be very, costly. It can be very expensive for the new hypnotist. It also, as well as being expensive, it's very difficult to track. And simply put, other forms of advertising, other ways of building a business are probably going to be much more appropriate in the startup phase. I do quite a bit of coaching these days for hypnotists who are looking to start up their businesses in this area or other areas. Saturation of strength. I'll help you in my own hometown. And I also teach my hypnosis business boot camp. There's a workshop that I've presented like that before. And I bring this up for a simple reason. I have a person one time that called me up, and it's like we may sometimes do with a client. You know, you might have that person who needs to call you a couple of times before they really feel that rapport, before they really feel that readiness. And again, I introduced the theme in the last video. Do we know all the NLP, the persuasion techniques to convert every single call? Yeah, we probably do, but we shouldn't be doing that. That's where you create a incongruency in the sale. So this person, he calls me several times, and finally the phone rings. Again, and his statement is, I'm working with this business coach, we're working on my branding, things are going really well. And I'm asking him, well, you know, quantify that. How well is it going? Well, I've got a logo, I've got the website, and I'm just looking for action. How many clients have you seen? Well, I still haven't seen the first client. Yeah, he had spent with this business coach upwards of about $5,000, $6,000, or $7,000. With the coach themselves, I think about $5,000. And then he was paying massive amounts of money for graphic design, investing all this money, and yet he still hasn't really taken off running with his business. Branding serves a purpose. We all know that McDonald's still sells hamburgers, don't we? They still keep reminding us, though. And maybe there's that day where you're driving around and you are so hungry, and there's the Golden Arches. And you just make that connection. Arches, hamburgers, McDonald's, and you're in the drive-thru. Maybe you're in an area where, oh, I had this one happen before. You probably made the same mistake as I have. I bought a brand new pair of shoes, and I went on vacation. So I hadn't yet broken in those new pair of shoes, and I didn't bring the old shoes, you know, tennis shoes, just for walking around. And man, they were just so uncomfortable. And I'm driving around, and I don't really tend to be a person with a lot of brand preferences, but I see the swoosh. Oh, Nike, cool, let me go there. You know, Coca-Cola. It's an interesting thing that you may have seen this. There's often this trend where people have like the Coca-Cola t-shirt, and even though it's in another language, you still recognize it's Coca-Cola. Even though it's Hebrew, even though it's Arabic, even though it's in French, they still have the same colors and themes. All this stuff serves a purpose. But again, it can be very expensive, and it's rather difficult to track. So my goal in this series is to begin to introduce you to things that you can actually get your hands into. You can actually follow exactly what's happening. I was doing very well in my business before I even had a logo. And it's only in recent years that I've rebranded, there's the word, rebranded as Virginia Hypnosis. For many years, it was just go see Jason, he's the hypnotist. I really didn't have a business name. The entity of my business, I'm the Jason Linett Group, LLC. And it's grouped just because there's several different streams of what I do. There's the classes, there's the stage hypnosis, there's products, and there's this office. So that's why it's a group. And Virginia Hypnosis is a DBA, doing business as, underneath that. We'll talk about that in greater detail in the business segment. So moving on, though, that's another form of marketing we can talk about. We can talk about direct response marketing. Now, this is very often a call to buying action ad. Call now to buy this product. This is going to be your as seen on TV. This would likely be your magazine advertisement, your newspaper advertisement, something on the radio. Call this number right away. And I reference this, excuse me. I reference this because in my research, this seems to be what most hypnotists out there are trying to do. Call this number to book your session. There's a problem with this. When you ask somebody to make that buying decision, you're inviting a fast yes, or a very even faster no. And if we give them that opportunity to say no, the assumption is now the sales process is over. So when we bring things, again, let's use the metaphor of light switches. If we let the buying decision to be a light switch, it's either on or it's off. If they've decided it's off, good night, you're done. You know, move on to the next client. And if the decision instead is something different, where they just can't help but raise their hand and say, I'm interested, I want to learn more, we're going to get a much better response. So again, can this model work? Yes, it absolutely does. And I'm sure there are some of you watching this video now who maybe have been in hypnosis for longer than I have, and call this number to book your session. That might be what you're doing and it's working well for you. Well, allow yourself to get into a suggestible state of mind and learn some other strategies to help to simplify, to help to amplify everything that you're doing. So the theme on this video, again, is what we call lead generation marketing. How does this work? Rather than going for the buying decision right away, I'm going to be collecting interest. Interest for the purpose of an eventual sale. So the goal of lead generation marketing is to generate leads, build a list, and then use that list and then campaign directly. And then the sale is made when the client is ready to make that buying decision. So again, consider this scenario where all we're asking a client to do, a potential client to do, is to raise their hand and just say, hey, I'd like to learn a little bit more. So we're leading with education. We're going to lead with that next step that I talked about in the last video. And we're going to be talking about specific things that can be that next step in the videos moving forward. Before we go further, though, I want to help to explain something here. You know, the whole concept, for a lot of people, advertising and marketing may be synonymous terms. And we can get really specific with those words if we really want to spend the time and belabor that point. However, whether we call it advertising, whether we call it marketing, let's throw in another word to the mix. That other word is campaigning. So what's the difference between advertising and campaigning? Well, in advertising or marketing, the goal often, again often, it's a modifier, sometimes, the goal is often to go directly for the sale. And in that point of making the decision, a buyer is potentially deselecting themselves without being first qualified to make that decision. In campaigning, the goal is more about building an ongoing relationship. So that way the sale can now occur more organically. So think about this for a moment. Do we want to be advertising, inviting people to make this yes or no decision right away and then deselect themselves out and never call us again? Or do we want to campaign, build a relationship? You know, think of if you've ever followed an election before, and primary season's a good option for this. You know, because many of us may end up choosing the same party line no matter what the election is. And sometimes we find ourselves guilty of, I know who I'm voting for president. And then whether it's D, whether it's R, we might just vote the same things down the line. Yeah, do some research, learn who you're voting for. But in that situation, though, let's look at the campaigning around the primaries. They're on TV, they're doing interviews. And it's become a bit of an accepted circus in our modern era where both parties, at a time of an election where both seats are uncontested, you know, like the upcoming election, you know, it's going to be an interesting situation where we have dozens of people vying for the seat in that political party. And we may have one that we start to like, but, oh, they didn't pass through this primary, now they're out. And we may stay within that same party, but again, we find ourselves making decisions based on the relationship we're building. We watch an interview. Oh, this guy, this is a George Carlin line about, oh, he's really intelligent. Oh, he's really smart. Oh, he's full of, yeah, fill in the blank. So with that theme, though, let's bring it back to our businesses. And let's also define, for better terminology here, the different types of leads. So lead generation, we're building more leads. And with this process here, we have two different types of leads we can become aware of. First of all, there's a cold lead. A cold lead is a person, a contact that has not yet built rapport with you. And a warm lead is a contact who has been, quote, warmed up by your campaigns. A warm lead may also, just to throw it in there, may come from a referral partner. So I'll give an example, and we'll show you both sides of this equation here. All of a sudden, I get a phone call, and it's a chiropractor. And we're talking. She's interested. She's doing a number of presentations. She's promoting her business by going out and giving live talks. We're going to talk about that later. But she's giving live talks, and she's got stage fright. She's got a fear of public speaking. So when she enters my process, yeah, she's a cold lead. She's cold to the process, And through my campaigning, through our conversations, we're warming her up, and then comes the buying decision, and she promptly made that decision. She became an excellent client. Now, through her experience, she's become a referral source for me. She's become a referral partner. And now there she is in her office, and here comes the client, maybe with a fear of public speaking. Oh, she can really talk about that now. Oh, wow, I just get up in front of those groups now, and I'm talking, and it's just so much easier. But maybe it's something else that she didn't experience with me. Maybe it's a client who comes in and they've got a lot of chronic pain. You know, we talk about the big three: smoking, stress, weight loss. If you alleviate one of those, chances are their comfort's going to increase. So here's the person that's seeing her for pain, and she also knows they're a smoker. It's a little bit more of a warming up process, but there's a natural lead-in. I saw him for overcoming a fear of public speaking, and it worked wonders for me. Here's his information, call him up. So coming in, he's a little bit more warmed up than he would have been if he's just, found me randomly on the website. So just letting a natural flow of the process begin to play out. And what's the principle here? What's the understanding behind what we're doing here? And this is the theme I introduced in the last video. What's the sales principle behind lead generation? I'm not selling hypnosis. I'm not selling results. I'm selling the next step. So what would that next step possibly be? Well, luckily in a couple of minutes I will show you a slide that actually has vivid detail about all sorts of things that could be that next step. What I want to qualify here, though, what I really want to explain, though, is once they've taken that first step, then let's sell hypnosis. Then let's sell results. Let's demonstrate value. Let's position ourselves as an expert, and then invite that buying decision when they're warmed up to our process and they know what's coming up next. So again, the goal of lead generation marketing is to spend our time only promoting and advertising and marketing our services to those people that have raised their hand and said, I'm interested. You go into a newspaper, you fill out a thing for an advertisement, and consider that there are people, let's say you get really specific here, which is fantastic. Are you ready to quit smoking? Call this number today to learn more, virginiahypnosis.com. I could put that advertisement in a newspaper, it'd probably get some response. But again, think about it this way. There are going to be people reading that advertisement who don't smoke. Wow, it worked that fast. No, they didn't smoke in the first place. So, is that going to be a marketing message that's going to apply for them? Well, no. So let's get a little bit more specific here. Now that could work, but it's then inviting that specific decision. Rather than sending messages out all about smoking to everybody I know. You all contacted me as a student, but if I was sending you emails about come in today to quit smoking, you'd be hitting that opt-out button just as fast as you could. It's not a congruent message to why you contacted me in the first place. So we want to build a congruent sales experience here. And in this video series, consider the video today here on lead generation, step 1. There are going to be some loose threads. There's going to be some open ends to what I'm presenting today. Next month's video is all about what to do with that list, how to automate your sales strategies to work smarter, not harder. So step 1 of this process is lead generation marketing, lead generation for list building. Step 2, we're then going to campaign to those people who have raised their hand and said, I'm interested. So the focus this month is going to be on list building strategies. Next month is what to do with that list. A couple other goals, just to point some other benefits out here. What's the goal of lead generation? We're going to spend our time promoting to those that are interested and build rapport remotely. Again, that's the Willie Nelson story. That's the story of many of you in this classroom. And the goal is to the client to enter the sales process when they're actually ready to make that buying decision. So again, readiness is all. When they're ready to make that decision, that's when I then want the offer showing up. Now, later in this video today, I'm going to be sharing with you, well, the simple fact. You will have people, we love these, that call you, they're ready. We don't have to go through an entire campaign. But even for the client who calls me up and has done hypnosis before with someone else, I want to make sure that they're a fit for how I work. So we'll still begin to go through some sort of systematic process in which there's still an automation there in terms of what to do. We'll clarify that later on in the video. But I said don't sell hypnosis, don't sell results, sell the next step. And again, this is that strategy. I'm actually seeing my monitor readout here, Dave Ellman induction. Remember, the first step of that is small muscle catalepsy. Relax the eyes so they just won't work. Test them, satisfy yourself, they just won't work. Dave Ellman referred to that as the opening wedge into hypnosis. We can paraphrase that as the foot in the door, the first hoop that they jump through. Once they've accepted that suggestion, we then can compound further and further down. You know, to hypnotize a client and go directly for a pinch for glove anesthesia, you might not have it right away. But to follow our Aaron scale and do small muscle catalepsy, do large muscle catalepsy, maybe have them lose a number, and then go for the glove anesthesia. You know, we've talked about this. You're going to find a much better result, compounding success. So we're going to use that same theme to build value, to demonstrate trust, build rapport by selling, first of all, that next step. It's a softer entry into that conversation. So what are some of those possible next steps? I'm sure many of you who are watching this video perhaps make use of the strategy of offering a free consultation. I'll run through all of these first and then we'll break them down one by one. There's also offering a special report. You can also offer a free download. Maybe you can offer a video series. Maybe you can send them a package in the mail. Maybe you can send them some general hypnosis information, or perhaps you could subscribe them to a newsletter. Now let's start to break these all down one by one. First of all, that free consultation. For the new hypnotist, this is an amazing strategy because the benefit is you start to build that skill actually interacting with a client there in front of you. You start to practice that pre-talk. You start to make some of these tactics more efficient, more easy. And chances are, as most people will tell you, if they've taken the effort to get into their car, drive to the office, and meet with you, they may be actually ready to work with you that day. Maybe they're going, I gotta check this guy out first, check this woman out, see what it is. Perfectly fine. I tend to be someone these days, just because of the amount of work that I tend to do, I do the consultation by phone. So my website reads, call for your free phone consultation. So I'm not asking them to call and book a session right away. No, I'm asking them to pick up the phone and call me for a free consultation. And we have that conversation. We go from there. There's your first next step. Another one. What if someone is not ready to pick up the phone and call you? Well, on my website, there are several places where they can request some sort of free special report. And there's a number of options of how you can do this. It can be very technical. It can be very basic. One of the special reports on my website is actually just general information about hypnosis, and it delivers to the potential client as a 3-step email. And we'll talk about how to do this in the next video that's all about automation. But they get a 3-step video, part 1, part 2, part 3, and it's all just there embedded in the text of the email. I also have another one on there that's very detailed. I made a very attractive PDF report. It's about 7 pages long. You've requested it. There's a bunch of graphics that are on there, and it's a little bit, quote, nicer of a product. But again, it's not call and book me today. It's not call and pay me the money to quit smoking. Here's a free special report on how people can use hypnosis to quit smoking. That's the next step. That's the wedge. That's the foot in the door. That's the first hoop. We can also offer a free MP3 download. I'd share this is one that I need to be making use of more. I've got it somewhere on the site. It's rather well hidden, and I need to amplify this one because it's wonderful. Now, this doesn't have to just be a website experience. We'll talk about the places you can make use of these strategies, but consider, we'll reference this in more detail later, but let's say you've done a live talk somewhere and you've brought someone up, you hypnotized that person and did a demonstration. Maybe you did a group induction. Hey, did you all enjoy that? Wouldn't it be great if you could relax yourself that quickly, that easily, that efficiently on your own? Well, I can send you a free MP3 download. So consider times that, and again, more detail later, that you've maybe given a live talk and got no response from that. Well, maybe you were going for the sale. You were going in for the kill way too quickly. You can also offer a video series. So this is an interesting one. Let's say that we've taken our NGH materials, we've organized ourselves, and we see the structure of what's in the textbooks of that 6-hour self-hypnosis class. And let's just throw out a standard number here, just a round number for easy tracking. Let's say you're going to teach this 6-hour course and you're going to charge $100. That may be a big step for someone to take. So what if they could see a number of videos to learn more about what goes on in the class? Maybe here's someone talking about the self-hypnosis that they've learned from you. Maybe here's an excerpt of you giving a demonstration of it live. Just a couple of options. So inviting that desire to see those videos rather than saying, sign up now. We can also stick a package in the mail. This is an interesting one that, think about it this way. I'll give you 2 options here. Let's say my product is a $30 audio program. It's a stop smoking audio CD. And what's the expense of creating a CD product? Well, it can be anywhere from maybe a couple of cents. Big spindle of disc now is very cheap. Maybe you print a label out yourself and just package it yourself. You could also upload it to a service like Kunaki or Lulu and have it professionally produced. So that audio program is going to be anywhere from like, let's say conservatively 20 cents up to like $2, or sometimes more if you're shopping in the wrong places, in my experience. So would we be sending out an audio demo to convert the $30 sale? Would I be spending, hello, we're live. Would we be sending out that $3 product with all the package and everything to then close a $30 sale? No, that'd be silly. However, I'll give you an example. I do stage hypnosis, and I send the school a big package of information. There's testimonials from past schools. There's a DVD. There's a booklet. There's a whole big clipping of newspaper articles. And I've factored in that package total cost is still a little bit less than maybe like $10, even including the priority mail shipping. But average income for a stage hypnosis program, do your own survey, but you'll see income anywhere from like $900 up to like maybe as much as $2,500. So $3 to $30, maybe too small of a sale to send a package in the mail is my main point here. But the same as sending a $10 package to then make potentially $1,800. Well, that's an equation I'd like to run over and over. So just a couple of options there. General hypnosis information, again, I've got this as an option on my website. And then a newsletter. This one I typically, in other presentations that you may have seen me at before, I didn't do it here. No, I usually put a question mark after the word newsletter. Susan, I'm going to send you email every single week just because it's Thursday. Sound good? Yeah, not so much. As opposed to, you called me about stress relief. And this is a new thing. Fox News just did an amazing news story on the efficacy of hypnosis to help people with stress and anxiety relief. And I'm going to send that to you today because this is important to you. Yeah, now you're nodding. Sounds good. So we want to build that kind of situation. That being said, again, many of you watching this video probably make use of newsletters, and I can think of many people that I highly respect that continue that practice to this day. What I tend to say is make sure your content is solid. But again, we want to have a specific offer as to why they want that. Consultation, free report, MP3 download, package in the mail. I'm sorry, but signing up for my newsletter isn't just as sexy as an offer, in my opinion. So this strategy, though, isn't just for online interactions. Let's assume that, again, a person calls you on the phone for a phone lead. Well, first of all, of course, through experience, you'll begin to develop a good outline of what you typically say on that phone call. We'll listen to their reporting issue, we'll build rapport with them, we'll learn more about their goals, why they want to make those changes, and then perhaps we'll begin to work within a metaphorical format of demonstrating value by talking about case histories. That kind of reminds me of, Frank. The guy Frank came in, this is what we worked on, and this was his experience. Is that kind of what you're looking for? Then after we've demonstrated that value and the point there, we'll then begin to talk about pricing and scheduling. But they've called me up first. So again, that phone call was a lead generation step. But what if they're not ready to make that decision? Well, here's that quote at the bottom. Great, while you're still doing some research, how about I send you some further information by email? Many of us receive in the NGH certification program, we receive the Master Marketing set from Don Motton. It's fabulous. You've got the book, you've got the 2 DVDs. It's funny, that little practice building flip folder of DVDs and CDs that we all get. I'm shocked at the convention how many people haven't dug into that. Go back to your library, find it, watch that stuff. It's phenomenal. For the trainers here watching this video, those DVDs are always getting updated. So I actually make it a point when it shows up, I watch it, I look through it to find out what's new. So again, Don Motton in that video references that for a while in his offices, the receptionist, the person answering the phone, it was a major issue if they didn't get someone's mailing address to mail a brochure out. So what's the theme here? We want to stay in control of that conversation. So with every phone call that I have, if they're ready to make that buying decision, which thanks to the strategies you'll be seeing in this video series, most of my people call me and book right away. What you're learning here, though, is how to expedite that sales process and just let it happen much more organically. Again, I'm not working hard. I'm just working smart. So in our modern era, great, let me get an email address from you. I'll send you a video with further information. You'll get to meet me before you even come into the office. And I'll send you some interesting case studies to read over. What's a good email address to send that to? And I get it right away. So how do we fold this practice in? So far it sounds very technical. All of this stuff can be as technical as you'd like it to be, but it can also be as simple as you'd like it to be. A good example is that I'm releasing several information products this year. So for that reason, I've made an investment in a much better quality camera. I've made an investment in a much better quality microphone. But that little camera in the corner that's shooting all of you here, it's a little $50 job. We'll spend some more time on video content. But in this room, I've got lighting. I've got a much bigger setup. But it doesn't have to be that. So let's talk, though, about how do we actually begin to find these opportunities for lead generation. Well, first of all, let's talk about live talks. We'll just detail these all first. I'll read them through first, then I'll detail them individually. So we have live talks, going out in the community, giving talks. We can work with referral sources. We can go to a health fair or some sort of wellness fair. Networking events. We can create low-cost products. We can also do this with past clients. So let's start to break these all down. One by one. So for a live talk, I'll give you an interesting scenario here. You've gone there, you've given a live presentation, you have wowed them. They just love this stuff. They're asking questions, they're interacting, things are going wonderfully well. And maybe you throw in like a nice soft offer at the end. Maybe perhaps it's a financial offer. For those of you that are interested, I'll just throw out a basic one. My session fee is usually $120. For this group, if you're interested, give me a call. You can get your first session for $100. And I've seen a lot of people who do that, and I'm sure that some of you watching this video have found that to be successful. But we've put the client in a position where they can make that buying decision too soon. How do we build the relationship further? Let's say we've done a live presentation and we've done something that was very interactive. We get up, we've got 20 minutes. Okay, I'm going to come out, I'm going to do an abbreviated pre-talk. Here's some interesting things about hypnosis. Here's who Mesmer was. Here's why it's called hypnosis. Here's the whole monoideism story. Hey, this is kind of fun. Let's do something for everybody here. Take your hands, clasp them together, and bring your fingers up and imagine there's magnets on those fingers and watch them now begin to pull. Yeah, look at that, pulling closer and closer together. Great. And then we start to talk about hypnosis even further. We're giving them an experience. And now we are talking about some case histories. Oh, hypnosis is wonderful for this. It's great for that. You know what? Let's do something again for everybody in the crowd. Take your arms. You already know where I'm going. Take your left hand, rotate it facing up. Take your right hand so it's facing down. Close your eyes. Oh, quick little side note, just an extra benefit. In doing those suggestibility tests for a group, I used to have this massive frustration that I would do the light and heavy arms, and I'd ask them to close their eyes, and like maybe a third, maybe a quarter of the people would actually close their eyes. And here's the other 2/3 or even more just sitting there looking at me, and I was getting frustrated. I was kind of getting angry on the inside, but not letting them know it. Well, why do you think they did that? Well, let's fold in our lead generation concepts here. We haven't yet built trust. We haven't yet built rapport with them yet. So consider, again, for those suggestibility tests, you all heard me talk about this last weekend, to do a suggestibility test, an imagination experience, as we like to call them here, with the eyes open first. It's creating that subconscious buy-in. It's that foot in the door. It's that wedge. And ever since I made that transition in a live talk, starting with the finger magnets, and then doing this one, it's going to be rare for me to have someone in the group who's not going to close their eyes as we do this. They've already built that trust with me. But anyway, so we've done something as an experience. We've demonstrated value, and maybe you've got options. You can pull up one person and do a demonstration of hypnosis, have them lose a number, make their arms stiff and rigid, something of a phenomenal nature. Maybe you can do a group induction, something for everybody. And at the end of it, here comes your lead generation offer. Did you all enjoy that? Well, great. Wouldn't it be wonderful if you could allow yourself to relax, to change an emotional state, a feeling, a behavior, just as quickly as you saw Renee up here do it? Wouldn't that be great? Well, I want to thank you all for inviting me here today, and I want to I want to make something available to you. I've created a 10-minute stress relief session. It's a self-hypnosis audio program. Now, I sell this on my website. It's like $45, but as a thank you for all of you being here today, I want to make that available to you. There's some forms on your tables and a couple of pens. If you want that, go ahead and fill that out. All you need is an email address. I promise you I'll send that out to you by the end of the business day today. There's our lead generation. So of that group of, let's say, 50 people, you know, some won't. Okay, they're not our clients. And many will. And now we've got 35 people who have opted into our list, and we're going to send them value, send them information, build the rapport, demonstrate that trust, and then go in for the close later on down that process. Oh, real quick. This is on, excuse me. This is on the resource disc that I gave all of you. But I found, let's say, you know, we've had this experience before. If you've been to like a band, you do event planning, where they pass around the clipboard. You know, if you want this thing, here's the clipboard, just fill it out, sign it. Let's assume we've got a group of 50 people. Do you think that in the structure of the 10 minutes they have at the end of the talk, everybody's going to get to that clipboard? No, of course not. So here's what I do. I have created a single piece of paper. This is cardstock, my notes, so they don't make noise. I've taken a piece of paper, I've subdivided it 6 ways, and it just has an info box. Give me your name, give me your email address, and depending on the environment, sometimes I ask more. So I print these also on brightly colored cardstock. So there in the middle of their table is this bright yellow, bright neon green piece of paper and a couple of pens on top of it. So when it comes time for me to make that lead generation offer, every table has one. It very quickly makes its way around all 8 to 10 people. And at the end of the talk, I can look at, I see my big yellow pieces of paper, and I just go grab them, I go home, I import them into my list. It works great. So what I wanted to offer too, you all already have this, but for the people watching this video, well, again, we have a live teleseminar follow-up to this. We'll broadcast that here below, budurl.com/hypnotism success 02 will be the teleseminar coming up. That's going to be 1 week from this video launch. We'll put that information here as well. When you watch this video, when you participate in the teleseminar, when you follow our action steps at the end of that video, as a thank you, we'll send you that form that I use. Yeah, and it works really well because, again, it gets around the list. You know, for those of you watching this video who perhaps have local NGH chapters, for the sign-in, I don't use this one specifically, but I do have 3 clipboards going around the room. So that way the 25 to 35 people that are here, everybody gets it. And I don't have to play the game of who hasn't had it yet, because it's just going around the room. Does that explain it? Yeah, for the live talks. We also can talk about referral sources here. And let's talk about this in terms of getting the referral source to actually exist. If you talk to anybody who's been in this profession for quite some time, you may hear this story. I moved into an office and there was a doctor there, and I just walked in and I just asked him to send me referrals. Send me your people for quit smoking. And slam the door. You know, that person who is there answering the phone calls, watching the desk, the receptionist, the secretary, office manager, whatever terminology we'd use, they have a little unknown, little unseen role for that doctor. They're a gatekeeper. There was one time this doctor that I used to go to retired recently. And since I moved, I just found a new practice to go to. But there's an experience I had where I was there at this doctor's office, and I just, in a very kind of friendly way, just comment, wow, your front desk staff is just really rude. This is a retired Army doctor. Every other word out of his mouth was profanity. Great guy. And I just referenced, they're pretty rude. And he just smiles and goes, I know, they are, aren't they? I don't have to deal with anybody I don't want to. And I say that not to cast a negative tone on that profession, but simply that doctor's time is very valuable. It's very important. So this is why, you know, anyone who's ever met a pharmaceutical rep, what's the policy? Buy the office lunch and then we'll listen to you. Come in when we're not actively seeing people. But for referral sources, to walk in the door, send me leads, send me clients, it's a bit of a big step and it becomes a little bit of a wall. So consider possible next steps that could apply for that. You know, there's the pharmaceutical example. Take them out for lunch. You could send them something, whether it's a book, whether it's a number of peer-reviewed journals, whether it's a collection of, let's say, two things. It's here's research and here's testimonials, so they start to make the connection themselves. Again, something to build trust and demonstrate value. I also referenced, oh, real quick, health fairs. This is going to be very similar to everything I said about live talks. I attended a health fair at one point, and it was great. There was another hypnotist who was there. And she's on that side of the room with her scheduling book, sitting there, and there's a price list there in front of her. And she's very friendly, very likable, and she's talking with people. And she walked away, and I followed up with her afterwards just out of curiosity. And I think she had booked maybe 8 or 9 sessions. You know, pretty good. If she's charging $100, she made $900. It only costs $50 to be there at the health fair. And her time, great return on investment. What was I doing? Well, I had my sheets of paper. I was out there talking to people. I was doing, you know, experiential things. I think at one point I had someone mention that they had seen these instant inductions before on TV, and they're going, "Is that real?" And I just kind of smiled and went, "You want to experience it? You want to enjoy some hypnosis?" "Yeah." "Okay, great. Put your feet together." "Great." And I just went in for a handshake. And you look at your hand, and we're just, yeah, we'll do that later today. So I'm doing something, and all of a sudden I had a crowd around me. So it just then became a brief live talk. You know, how do we turn that situation into something that we're going to get even better response? Wouldn't it be great if you could relax, if you could calm your mind that quickly? Well, I've got an audio program, and the same offer went out. I think at that health fair, too, I was maybe doing a raffle. And I did, you know, be ethical, pick one winner, don't say you all won. But I was offering a raffle, but just for signing up, everybody got some free special report or something. So what was my result? This was a giant health fair. There were hundreds of people going through. If I'm remembering, this was years ago, if I'm tracking it right, I think I saw maybe 20 or 30 clients just from that event. So just by shifting the sales message, thing became easier. We can talk about networking events. Networking events. You know, it's a bit of a myth that everybody's there to try to sell their service. I met a wonderful client there at one point. She works for a local carpet company, and she's an employee there, so her employer is paying for her to be there. So yes, she's there to represent her company. She's also there to build networks and find new potential clients and referral partners. Yet she was interesting because when I met her, she had a little yellow pad, and she had a list that she was in there looking for. We just moved into a new house, and there's an existing security system, but it's not hooked up. I'm looking for someone who can turn that on. I also need a plumber. We have a place where you'll love this line, there used to be a toilet, but now there's not. There's a hole. We want to get that installed. She was looking for a number of other things too, and on her list, weight loss. She was looking for either a personal trainer, nutritionist, but as we get to talk, now she's interested. And I forget the specific lead generation step that I took, but again, we were there talking and just building that next step, next step, next step, next step. But in that environment too, any of the things we've talked about so far. Oh, in a previous class, I had a personal trainer. Better example. I had a physical therapist. That the encounter there was through conversation. Here, read some things about hypnosis and pain relief. And that's why he signed up for the class. So it wasn't immediately, here's the class, here's the fee, sign up now. Here's the next step to begin to lead generate, to begin to move it forward. In all interactions, again, the theme is always build the conversation, get the next step in place. Low-cost products. I'll give you an example. Let's say the environment we have here. For those of you who can think back to your certification training, chances are your initial investment for that course. You know, we've seen different fees all around the country. I saw one area where he was charging, I think like $1,200, and I know someone else who charges about maybe $2,300, $2,400 for the class. Different areas, different markets, different trainers, different experience. That's where we'll see some difference there. But let's take, for example, this person, let's just use a round number, $2,000 for the investment for the course. That's a massive leap. That's a big step. What if instead of selling a $2,000 7-day, 100-hour course, I offered to you when you first called me, well, I tell you what, in a couple of months from now, a couple of weeks from now, this Sunday, whatever the date is, I'm going to be presenting a 1-day Hypnosis 101, one-day introduction to hypnosis. And it's a one-day course. We'll work 3 hours in the morning. We'll take a break. We'll come back for 3 hours in the afternoon. You'll be home for dinner. And the investment for that is, again, round numbers, $100. Do you see how I'd be selling a lot of people at $100? And think about the end of that 6-hour experience. They've learned some things about hypnosis. They've learned more about what the process actually is. And then at the end of that class, they've entered in on a low product. Well, for those of you who'd like to learn more, and here comes your pitch for the class. A great option. You know, we could also offer, you know, an initial consultation and stress relief self-hypnosis session and offer that to say it's this fee, but then from there sell the bigger package of sessions. So a lower entry product could also be lead generation. And a few others as well, past clients. Again, this is going to be just like working with referral sources. How do we begin to build value, build trust? It's like when a person calls us and they're calling on behalf of someone else to quit smoking. That's a phone call that I tend to find a way to exit rather quickly because I want that person calling me directly and I want to hear it from them, what their goals are, why they want to make the change. You know, I only just now had my first client come in where someone else called on his behalf for quitting smoking. And up until that point, I could count hundreds, maybe thousands of experiences. Yeah, my sister needs to quit smoking. You know, well, yeah, we talked before. When that person has that desire, different conversation. So in that situation, I'm going to arm that past client with education. Well, here's a video I'm going to send to you. Have them watch it. Working with kids, same thing. You know, we're a culture. My phone's in the other room, but we're a culture now of, hey, check out this video. And I'll have the parent show their kid a video of me doing the finger magnets thing as an experience. There's the lead generation followed up by the offer. Hey, I know this guy. He can help you out with your, you know, fears around testing. He can help you out with your gymnastics, whatever the situation may be. So the real theme here is without a list, you really don't have that sustainable of a business. And I want to demonstrate this by a couple of stories. First of all, from the side of things of training, I run the local Northern Virginia Hypnosis NGH chapter here in this room. So from that, I've got a list of all the local hypnotists who have come through my office. I've hosted many ongoing advanced trainings, and as Simpson, we just scheduled Sean Michael Andrews for coming up in October. Sheila Granger coming up in a couple of weeks, a couple of months as well. So through all these experiences, the list grows and grows and grows and grows. I also organize my NGH group on meetup.com. And by doing that, occasionally I have people who are coming into the group that are brand new to hypnosis. And maybe at one point they become, actually some of you here, that's Renee, that's how you first met me, you came to the meetup. And then from there they made the decision to become a student. And then from there, perhaps something down the road you'll be interested in, you might be there. I don't know, we'll see. So from building that list though, here comes an event. I connect with Roy Hunter. He's coming into town for the Hypnobirthing Conclave. And I just call up and say, do you want to come into town a week early or a week after and do a training here? So we arrange a nice 5-day event, couple of options. You can do regression, you can do parts therapy, you can do this other thing too. And because I had that list already there, if I remember right, I think it only took a couple of emails to really fill the room. So again, without that list, I wouldn't have anywhere to throw those darts for them to stick. With that list in place, throwing those darts, they stuck much more easily. There's another example. I mentioned that, you know, there's a number of people who do this gastric band imaginary surgery thing with hypnosis. There's HypnoBand, there's the Slimmer weight loss, I think it's called. There's Sheila Granger's protocol, and that's the one that I took the class, and that's the one I've invited here to do the class in a couple of months. So the story here, though, is I'm there. I took it up in Long Island, Carol Denneker's office. Carol, hi. She's got a great office. She has a kitchen. I need one. So we're up there. I flew up to Long Island. It was a funny event because my birthday was that weekend, so I had to haggle with my family. It's nice when they want you to stay home, but timing was right. I flew up there for that class. So it's a Saturday and Sunday, and I had a list. And to really illustrate the strength of this story, is where I can introduce the theme of the benefit of subdividing a list. I mentioned before, you called me for a class. Susan, I know you don't smoke. And if I was blasting you with stop smoking messages, you would have gotten out of my emails. You probably wouldn't be here today, would you? Yeah. So subdividing that list. So out of my list of a couple of thousand names, I then had this many that were all weight loss people who are interested in hypnosis, interested in weight loss, who had already previously raised their hand and said, I'm interested. So what do? Well, it's Saturday night. I'm in Long Island. It's beautiful up there, but it's pouring down rain, so I'm in my hotel room at the Marriott. Do I turn on the TV and watch reruns of Family Guy? Well, I could. Instead, I got a little creative. I sent out an email to my list, just those people who are interested in weight loss. Here's where I am. Here's what I'm doing right now. And on this specific date next month is when the service will be available. And I threw in the little disclaimer that, I've been doing hypnosis for weight loss for many years now, but the difference is I'm adding this into the mix as well. Now, for that one, I didn't do lead generation because they had already opted in. I already had that opening wedge. I already had the foot in the door. So I was ready then to go in for a sale. So the offer was two different parts. Offer number one, different call to action. Call this number to discuss your weight loss goals, which is still a lead generation principle. Or option two, when we officially launch this on our website, it's not on the site right now, you can look, it's not there yet. It's going to be this fee. But if you're ready to book now, use this PayPal button and it's this fee. So just a small percentage less. From that one email, I shared this number recently. The investment of my hotel, my flight, the class, and even the food I ate, from that one email, just one, I recouped the investment in the course 4 times over. And it's not just specific to that class. We can do that with all sorts of things. And that wouldn't have been possible without that list. So to really demonstrate the benefit of list building, there's a theme called dollar cost averaging that I really want to expand upon here. You've maybe heard of this before in the investment world. You may have heard of this before. There's a thing called drip investment. Procter & Gamble is a company that does this. You can sign up for a program where automatically every month $100 automatically deposits into the investment account. And you may be buying fractional shares. Sometimes you're buying a whole share. Sometimes you're buying a fraction of it. Sometimes a little bit of that. Even for the person who just decides, every 6 months I'm going to put $500 into this stock. Well, sometimes it's at this price, sometimes it's at that price. So the concept becomes, it all begins to average out to a certain dollar cost. And over time, it's been found to be one of the most effective and also one of the easiest ways of building an investment. The dividends are falling and all that. So let's talk dollar cost averaging here for a moment. Let's throw out a pretty simple number here to illustrate this. Let's say that as a hypnotist, you're making $50,000 per year. And let's say you've cultivated a list that has 1,000 people on it. Well, divide that down. $50,000 divided by 1,000 people on your list, the math on that works out to be that every name on your list is worth $50. Think about that. Whether a client books you or not, their information is worth $50 to you. So with that math, would you like to have a list of 2,000 people or 200 people? Yeah. And as we grow in this profession, as we build our businesses, as we're learning better strategies to work with our clients and getting better results, that value per client begins to expand more and more. So again, think of the subtitle of this program. It's lead generation, fill the pipeline. If your pipeline is providing a more thorough flood of incoming active leads, cold leads, and then we're then converting them into warm leads, you're going to build an extremely sustainable business. And this stuff is easy. Now, in the next video, again, I'll be showing you what to do with that list. I'll be showing you some of the really cool technical tools, and we'll mention a couple of them here today, but you don't have to get that crazy with this stuff. It can be very simple. Again, the theme is, if you can load a website, if you can write an email, if you can respond to an email, you can do the stuff I'm going to share with you today. But let me jump to the next thing here about an interesting theme with marketing. They call this the rule of 7. I saw all different percentages in my research, but this is the older concept. The saying goes that a prospective buyer needs to see your campaign message at least 7 times before buying. And this helps you to build a relationship and let the process occur much more naturally. A couple of other themes here as well. Building a relationship. We're going to begin to do rapport building through media. We're going to create expert positioning through articles and case histories. This is kind of planting a seed for where we're going next month. I'm going to be sending out friendly, personalized messages with soft offers and also leading with education. You know, chances are you might have subscribed to something on email at one point and every message was buy this thing now, buy it right now. What's wrong with you? Aren't you buying it now? Sign up for the class. Oh, you're not ready to, it's all this harsh, you know, in your face stuff. It's hard. It takes a lot of energy. I don't like working hard. I like working smart. So you're going to see in the next video, I'm going to make use of all these tactics in a very simple, systematic way. So the next step from here. The next step from here is going to be about taking action. And I'll give you some specific action steps moving forward. I want to plant a seed, though, for next month's video about automation, because the question often arises, how do we organize that list? Well, I've put a couple of options here. The first two, well, first of all, you could actually do it from, note cards. You could do it pen and paper, and chances are people who have built incredible businesses through history didn't have the technological tools that we have at our disposal today. But because we have them, let's play with them. Here they are. From the software perspective, you know, we all probably have Excel or something like that. It's a spreadsheet program. Another option is a software called ACT. And Susan and I were talking about this. She uses this for her Pilates studio. So this is software-based list management. They call it a CRM, Customer Relationship Management Software. That's what CRM stands for. But this can also be done online. And some of these tools that I'm going to highlight here today have the abilities to do everything we're about to jump into in the next video in this series. A couple of options, and I've put these on 2 lines for a specific purpose. Many of you are probably already aware with Aweber, with MailChimp, with Constant Contact. These are email automation services. The next 2 on the line below have differing levels of services, though. There's SendPepper and Infusionsoft. What I want to mention here is one of my favorite themes in moving forward is big game hunting. You know, from the networking environment. We talked about this, you know, the concept of going after the golden egg. But wouldn't it be much better to go in for that golden goose and have that as a referral source? You know, rather than this chiropractor coming into the office, that's once, I'd rather have the 5 or 6 people that she can have calling me a month. That's big game hunting. What I reference here, SendPepper and Infusionsoft. SendPepper specifically, which first of all, I will share full disclosure. SendPepper is the service that I use. The intention of this video series is not an advertisement for them. I do run an affiliate program with them, but for that reason, I'm specifically not giving you my affiliate link. Also, the whole affiliate business thing tends to be, a couple of bucks, couple of cents a month. I'd rather go after the big game hunting than the $1 every other month I might get from you using the service. But what I like about them is there's room for growth. They do everything that the other companies will do, but then you can opt up to a bigger level with better strategies. The trade term, as I hear it for Infusionsoft, is Confusionsoft. I've yet to have a lot of experience with it, though. What I'll reference, though, these companies, you can go back in the video and look at the names again. Aweber, Constant Contact, MailChimp, SendPepper, Infusionsoft. There's a bunch of others as well. I only reference the ones that I've got some personal experience with. All of them offer a free trial. So a little bit of an action step. If you haven't made one of these things before, if you haven't looked into these types of services, you know, sign up for a couple of them. Explore them. See what there is to do. See what's a fit. My filter is always I want to find a company with excellent customer support. And if you go back to that slide, you may recognize some companies that aren't there, and there might be a reason I didn't put them there. So let's talk action steps. How do you begin to move forward now using this information? Well, spend some time brainstorming. What are some possible things of content that you can create to be your next step? Also, I talked about segmenting lists. How can you begin to build your list, but at the same time, begin to subdivide that list so you're only marketing to people who want that specific information? We can also begin to brainstorm. How do you begin to build relationships with your new prospects? And how can you better organize your results? How can you better organize your efforts? Again, that theme again, working smarter, not harder. So in the coming weeks, spend some time. Think about this information. How can you get that opening wedge? How can you get that foot in the door? How can you have them jump through that first hoop? So when it comes time for a buying decision, they're no longer a cold lead. They're no longer unsophisticated. Now they're sophisticated. Now they're warmed up. Now they're ready. I look forward to you joining us. I want to reference real quick the feedback from last month's video. Thank you all so much for that. Ton of views, ton of likes on YouTube, a lot of great feedback, whether there on Facebook or several of you just called me directly. Thank you so much for that. Your feedback is what really helps to guide this program. We've announced a couple of videos, but we're still kind of flexible in the videos that I'm going to be doing in the later part of the series. So your feedback is what helps to guide us. Your interaction too. So coming up, here's the next teleseminar. Wednesday, February 16th, 2014, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. If time zones don't match up, you can listen to the replay. The website is right here on the screen, budurl.com/hypnotism success 02. I'll leave that on the screen for a few moments so you can jot that down. If you're watching this on YouTube, it's the link that's going to be down there below in this interaction, below in this description as well. But again, as a thank you for your participation by watching this video, by participating in the teleseminar, again, you'll get your 2 hours continual educational credits. And as a thank you by filling out the form and submitting that information, you'll actually get a copy of the forms that I use. When I'm in there in that live talk environment, how do I walk out with the most number of names? If each name is worth $50, and that I share a very conservative example, would I rather walk out with just one name, or would I rather walk out with 50 names? Build relationships, demonstrate value, demonstrate trust, and help a client to be much more successful. Again, I'm Jason Linett. I want to thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you all for letting me do this as part of class time this morning as well. I look forward to your feedback. I look forward to your participation in this series in the future. Thanks so much. Go out there and build a great business.